kiss and hug me. Come on strong, go on and love me. Without waste that big old moon. Wake up and smell the perfume. Just say if you want to be more than friends. Got some love I'd like to make.
Welcome everyone to Marketing Momentum with Charles and Deborah. Hi, Charles.
Hello, Deborah. How are you?
So, anything new this week before we?
Actually, actually, it's a good time to kind of do this. I'm really, making a real transition, business-wise, to do some things local. I mean, I just got in from meeting a guy who's got a really unique platform in Harrisburg. And he thinks that the next evolution of social networking is going to be niche sites. They don't necessarily have to be local, but that, people are going to want to come off of various Facebooks and LinkedIn, and they're going to want to go to these smaller communities. Now, whether or not that's going to take place on Google+, it hasn't yet. It's starting to take place. But he's trying to build something that is local. And so we're going to do some things together. But even if he wasn't doing that, I'm going to try to do a lot of what I've been doing for marketing consultants all over the place, and then try to do more of that stuff for entrepreneurs here. So this is really a good time to really talk about some of the stuff that I've done for marketing consultants in the past, because I'm probably not going to do nearly as much product creation going on in the future with that group, even though I built up, an email list. I'm not going to be giving it up, but in a sense, I guess I will be, and I'm going to try to really build the same kind of thing in Central Pennsylvania. It's kind of like, okay, well, I know what I want to do now. I sort of know what I did right. I know what I did wrong, and I want to do some of that here in Harrisburg and try to do it differently. So,
now,
go ahead.
How does that differ? Okay, my husband and I, we started our domain registration site, web hosting, the whole thing, and everything. We had the servers. I designed it, from scratch. So we've been really globally minded, even to the point of support calls in the middle of the night from India, or, wherever. That the concept of local, it's almost like if I did have a concept of local, I lost it when I went global. So for anyone else, and maybe I'm the only one in the whole world that has this disconnect, in what ways would it be different as far as your thinking, as far as beyond maybe meetings that are local and bringing people together, like not online, or what are the differences as far as strategies?
Well, I think one thing in particular is that, people still, I think, right, they still want to connect. The problem with doing things that are content-based, media-based on a local level are the economics, and it's hard to do an advertising-based model on a local level, and I think that's why people don't do it. You need sort of reporters. People like content that's local. They like dealing with people that are local. They like to be able to shake their hands. They still like that stuff. The problem is doing business that way. I mean, you can't. It's almost hard to have a staff. It's almost hard to do. Especially, and I guess I'm talking strictly about a content-based business, which is sort of what I've been doing. And so what we're going to do is, we're going to take the radio, right, the online radio, and we're really going to focus on local business, right? And instead of me trying to use the internet to reach out to everybody in one niche, we're going to try to reach everybody in a local, entrepreneurs in a local sense. And so the monetization, as far as I'm concerned, is going to be a couple of things. Well, it's still going to be ad revenue. You and I have talked about corporate sponsors. And then events, right? Because people still want events. They're still paying for events, and so we're saying we're gonna hope that the case is that sure, people would pay to see Seth Godin, but there's a Harrisburg version, right? And so we want to find the Harrisburg version, and not only do we want to highlight the Harrisburg version, we want to say, well, hey, here's this gem that you know anything about because you've got all this other stuff out here, right? But you've got this guy who's right here who not only, you know, is willing to come and talk to you, but he's willing to do business with you. So so we're going to try to bring in the local entrepreneurs, and we're going to try to give them the resources. So the idea behind the content, and to me, I'm not in competition anymore with, you know, I can bring in anybody, right? So when I bring in, I don't know, I cover the Women's Business Forum, right? They've got to be happy to be on my show, right? Because I'm not in competition with them. I'm not in competition with.
What was it? Because they're women?
You know, no, just because but you know, but for eyeballs, right? Everybody's competing for attention, and so they've got a conference, but I'm not in competition with them. I want to tell everybody about their thing, right? So
okay, gotcha.
So
it's like a complimentary.
Exactly, and so it's really complimentary for everything, and I think it's definitely a risk, right? It's definitely a risk because we could find that with even if you had all the interest that you could possibly get on a local, you know, web show, that it's still not enough for one person or one family to do, right? Because right now, you heard a patch where they're going broke, and these big players that have gotten into big media, or these big players, the big media players who've gotten into local, where they're leaving with their tail tucked between their legs because they can't make the economics work. The ad revenues are not high enough, so they're cutting and running out of it, or they're trying to reconfigure it. And I think that the reason that it might not be working, at least this is my bet, is that the niche is not tightly enough defined. So in other words, local news might not be enough, right? What I'm betting is that, well, you know, local entrepreneurs would want to hear from, number one, B2B people, right? So people who can really give them some help. So if I go get a lawyer who can address other entrepreneurs about business structure, about employee law, and I can bring those people to entrepreneurs, I'm betting that they'll tune in, right? When they understand that, hey, you know, we're getting real help, and for the entrepreneur, like a B2B guy, well, if he knows he's going to get in front of, even if he's going to get in front of 10 people, right, and kind of talk about his expertise or her expertise, that's still better than they would have had even if they would have run $10 worth of Google ads and gotten 2 leads. They get one person to listen to them, right? If there are 10 listeners on my show, right, if there are just 10 listeners, they're always a lot more than that. But if I get 10 listeners and they listen to this lawyer talk about, you know, whatever they're an expert in, well, that's better spent. And they're not even spending the money, right? That half an hour with me is better than $10 that they would spend in Google ads, and they've got it, and it's going to be out there forever. So everything's really going to center around the show. We're going to try to build a community around the show because the show's been going on and off since 2008, and people dig it, right? They understand it. They're kind of into it. So we want to run it every day, right? The hard part is getting guests every day, and I guess we had to toy around with, and this is not even a subject, but I'll end this pretty soon. We had to stop with the feature, right? The features are cool. Hey, meet your entrepreneurs in Central PA, and that's cool. It didn't bring the listenership that we wanted it to bring because, you know, people are kind of listening saying, well, that's them, and right, they're cool, but I don't really want to know my local baker, right? If I'm an entrepreneur, and then
I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm trying to follow. As far as features, you're not talking about the video interviews. You're talking about feature like podcasts beyond. your
It
normal
could
daily?
be. Well, it would be. Yeah, well, it could be the same if I were doing video. It would be the same thing. It would be kind of like, well, let's do a hangout with, this guy's got a bakery on 3rd Street, and let's talk to him. And he would be interesting, but you wouldn't necessarily tune in when you saw the title. It might not grab you. But you
Okay.
might tune in if you thought, well, hey, you know what? I don't really know a whole lot about estate planning, and I'm a sole proprietor, right? Let me see what I can find out here. And if I can work to make sure that attorney, right, or that estate planner who's on there, I mean, that's part of going to be my job going to be on the show, is to make sure that they really do provide good information, right? So that I don't let them just kind of get on there and advertise, but that I really try to get them to extract. But ultimately, even that, you and I have talked before, that can't depend on me. So it can't be my style that brings people, right? Because
Right.
otherwise, then I've created, a very cool radio program that I have to be at every day, 5 days a week for the rest of my life, right? Otherwise, people aren't going to listen, and that's not the idea. The idea is really to try to create something that, number one, can go without me, right? And so number two, so when we go to every day, I've already been talking to people around the city. I'm saying, well, hey, you know what? Do you want a little more exposure? Hey, why don't you guest host this thing? Why don't you guest host on this day? And to have a lot of guest hosts doing the daily programs, and then to try to transition out of it eventually. So
kind of like the Johnny Carson, Jay Leno thing, where Jay Leno would. I know I'm going way back. Jay Leno would, and what was it? Okay, I can't go back this far, but whoever it was before Johnny Carson, he was not the original one, but where they have people guest hosts, and it's like, hey, it looks like the audience really likes this particular guest host, even though they have different ones, and so they kind of transition. I like how they did that,
Right.
so the audience wasn't like, whoa, what happened? Who is this? They had a chance to fall in love with the new host.
Exactly. Right.
Wow.
Right. So that's what's
It's
going
awesome.
on. Right. Yeah. So I'm trying to move local. So.
Well, and when you were talking about that, was I
But
always have to relate it back to what I'm doing. When you said features, I'm thinking, okay, like you said, baker, plumber, roofer, all these services that are really great, but maybe the person listening doesn't need that. But for the person being featured, it's really great that they get attention, but maybe they're not getting the attention from the right target audience. I was thinking of when I offered like free interviews for products during the holiday season. Great people on there, but not everybody was looking for that particular product. So I thought, hey, I'm doing this service for these people. But I think it caused some audience confusion as far as, wait a minute, normally we talk about social media. What is all this that we're talking about, back scratchers or, cupcakes and things like that? Great, great products, but it was like, what are we focusing on? It sounds like you're going, back to the basics as far as let's bring in services that are of interest to my audience. So the focus is on the audience rather than the guest. I mean, it's on the guest too, but a
Right.
better fit.
Right. Yeah. Now I want to do, and I just don't know if it's possible. I mean, I'm in negotiations with my wife about doing.
Okay, wait, that's a whole other show. Negotiations with your wife. That's just too juicy.
I'm in negotiations, right? I'm in negotiations with my wife about doing the deal of the day show, which is, she probably doesn't want to necessarily do the interviews, right? But to really give the consumer based, right? If you got a business and your product or service is for consumers, well, you'd probably like to be featured too, but you're not. I wouldn't want to put you on the entrepreneur show, because that's really for the folks who can help other entrepreneurs. That's what I wanted for that part of the show. But I'd like to be able to say, well, hey, you make T-shirts, right? Well, I still like to have you, I still like to have you on a show, but it'd probably be more appropriate to have you on a show for consumers, and then really to push that to consumers. And hopefully, right, like the big picture is to build a subscriber list of consumers, right? And I don't really fully know, what you would do. I do know that if you've got a list of local consumers, that you can do something. What you can do with it, I don't fully know. They're probably experts, but I can become an expert if I have the list, right? It's kind of like if I have it, then I can kind of figure out what to do with it. And so what I hope to do, if my wife can do the, because we're trying to figure out, okay, well, who would they really want to listen to, right? Because my wife really has the knowledge of what goes into a deal on the local level. I'm probably more comfortable interviewing,
Right.
a local person. And so I don't know, maybe we both do it. We're still trying to figure it out. But basically, you're right. That the person who can provide services to entrepreneurs, and they're willing and they understand what it means to be interviewed and to get on and help people, right? So they're not to let them know, okay, well, Mr. Business Owner, I want to have you on here, but
It's not
I
all
don't
about
want
you.
you advertising.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's like if you deliver this thing, this is gonna be on the internet forever. So all you got to do is help these people, right? Just help these people on this call, and somebody is going to listen to this, right? Because even without a lot of work, a Hangout or a Blog Talk Radio show, it's going to rank. I don't have to do anything to it. I don't have to send any backlinks. I don't have to tweet it. I don't have to do any of that stuff. It just ranks someplace, right? And it ranks pretty well if you don't do any of this stuff. So, if they're willing to come on and they get it, right? And I don't have to be on the call kind of like, well, trying to re-steer it, and I don't have to do a lot of editing, then it could really work. So there are a lot of moving parts to this, but the basis is providing information to entrepreneurs from entrepreneurs and providing information to consumers from local entrepreneurs, and eventually, this is the part that I'm trying to figure out. If I start bringing them on from the beginning, right? What am I gonna eventually sell, right? I could sell access to an email list, right? I could do that. I could sell access to, I don't know. So the revenue model is the thing.
Development.
And it is. It needs to be, and it could be as good as it could just be sponsorship, right? Of the actual shows and events, right? So, events for consumers, events, in the local area for consumers. I don't know if that would fly, but I know events for like a marketing conference for a business owner, right? I don't know, $97 That's gonna work, right? If they've been listening to the show, or even if they haven't, and I don't know, 4 hours, 6 hours, that's gonna fly. Somebody will pay $97, and if I can probably get, if I'm consistent, I can foresee getting 100 people in a room, right? You do that every quarter, it's not bad.
Right. And when you were saying that, I was thinking cross promote. Like when you said T-shirts, right away I thought, as a business owner, hey, like Go Promos, Vistaprint. It's like, wow, we could have T-shirts and have the logo, and all these different thoughts. So maybe the T-shirt entrepreneur doesn't apply to your entrepreneur show, and it's more the daily deal. But you can certainly mention it on your show and cross promote both directions, and as far as your email and your website. So there's opportunities where maybe somebody does want whatever the daily deal is, and they're on your other list. So that's a great opportunity to have cross promotion.
Right. Yeah. And the event, obviously, it is to again, I don't mind having American Express there. I mean, we know that they're spending money because they want these small businesses. We know Chase is spending money. All these guys, Intuit, they're spending big money to get these small businesses on their list. They're basically selling their soul to get small businesses. And so, would they pay me? I have no idea. But if I have the list, I don't need them, right? So it's almost kind of like, you can if I let you, right? I don't need you, but if you're willing to pay enough, yes, sure you can. And you've got to follow these rules because these are local guys. You're not going to get in here and just ramrod them. You know what I mean? So it takes time to build the community, I think, and again, it's a risk because I guess if you work at anything long enough and you spend enough money, you get anything. But do you have does a person have enough time to build the right community? Does a person have enough time to get people's awareness to these shows? And that's going to be the sleepless nights, and that's going to be where the hustle is, right?
I still love that word, the hustle. I just find my sisters. Hey, okay,
That's what it's going to be.
Hustle, but yeah. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Charles.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Don't you wanna kiss and hug me? Come on strong, go on and love me. Let's not waste that big old moon. Wake up and smell the perfume. Just say if you wanna be more than friends. Got some love I'd like to make. Baby, you can squeeze me, I won't break. We could be in a paradise, you and me. Until then, I'll remind you again. Just say when. Oh yeah, until then, I'll remind you again. Just say when. Oh baby, just say when.